The only thing in the world I might like more than PlayStation VR, other than Tornado of course, are retro games. I grew up in the 8 and 16-bit era, and despite some severely limited technology by today's standards, developers of the time were able to make some truly memorable games. I always gravitated toward platformers and adventure games, but my friends and I still managed to get our hands on the occasional shoot 'em up, like R-Type, Axlay, or the series that the game in this review is so obviously paying homage to, Capcom's 1942. Not that shoot 'em ups need a story or anything, but the deal here is that it's 1976 and things are not right with the world. The Nazis won World War II, Hitler needs to be stopped, and Dr. Ivanovich has created a time machine that allows us to go back to pivotal moments during the war and win them for the Allied powers. This means that each level is preceded by the good doctor telling you the mission, and occasionally mentioning some humorous things that have changed due to us interfering with history. It's actually pretty funny, even if it slows things down a bit and is kind of out of place.
But don't worry, we fixed a couple of circuits and now everything should go just fine. Hopefully.
The levels themselves are relatively standard shoot 'em up fare. You're controlling a plane, shooting down hundreds of oncoming enemies in their bullet hell onslaught of attacks, but the presentation here is kind of awesome. Arcade mode, as this top-down view is called, is presented almost like a 3D movie, with planes flying into the playfield and debris and smoke flying out toward the player. It's also the game mode with the most polished gameplay and the best-looking graphics. The other game modes kick in when you hit this icon and brings you into something called immersion mode, which puts you either inside the plane or right behind it for a brief amount of time. These are a great change of pace, but something doesn't seem right. You'd think that when you drop into first person, the engine of the plane would be louder, the DualShock 4 would be rumbling and shaking with every shot fired, and everything would look, sound, and feel more intense. But it doesn't. The music and background noises actually seem more subdued than arcade mode, so the transitions always seem a little bit more underwhelming than they should.
Guns up maximum power.
The great part about all these levels is they each come with a series of objectives. Finish the level with 90 coins, shoot down 100 enemies, don't die, that kind of thing. Completing them gives you either a silver or gold medal, depending on how well you did, and at a few pivotal moments during the game, you need a certain number of medals to progress. For me, this added a ton of replayability, because it's not exactly a difficult game, but a few of the objectives can be downright brutal. So I played most of the stages upwards of 5 or 6 times, trying to get as many as I could. The added benefit of all this grinding is that you'll also be accruing coins the whole time, that you can spend on upgrading your plane. Your standard guns, guided missiles, damage repair, and there's actually 7 different upgradable attributes, and almost all of them can be upgraded over 20 times. So needless to say that by the end of the game, you're much, much more powerful than you were when you started. Now, while I love the look and feel of Back to Midway, a few glaring issues stood out. First, almost all the levels look the same. Don't get me wrong, a few have rain or some bigger mountains or whatever, but for the most part, you'll see a lot of blue water and quite a few rocky little islands and tropical trees. It would have been great to see some variety, maybe a jungle or desert or secret Nazi military base, anything to mix things up a bit. That goes for the bosses too. They're here, but again, there's not much variety. They're just bigger planes. I mean, we're talking about the secret weapons of the Luftwaffe here. Insane experiments should be found at the end of every single level. And while a single move controller is supported, it's unwieldy and hard to recommend for a game that requires fast reaction times. Control works best with a HOTAS or the DualShock 4, although for the life of me, I can't figure out why the DualShock's D-pad isn't supported, just the analog stick.
Guns upgraded.
I love that 1976 Back to Midway exists. The presentation is cool, there's a fun platinum to go for, and overall, it's an enjoyable VR take on a classic series. To me though, it just feels like the game doesn't go far enough with the formula and doesn't quite have enough variety or polish to justify the $20 price point, which by the way is $5 more than it is on Quest or PC. But fans of the genre should still check it out, even if you have to wait for a sale, because despite a few flaws, it's still a lot of fun.
Extra life. Guns